G'day, legends. I hope that you're having a fantastic day. Now, tomorrow is the most important day on the calendar for Australia and New Zealand. Of course, it is Anzac Day. Now, Anzac Day is a day of remembrance for those who have served in the armed forces. And we remember and we celebrate those who have fought and served in the forces, especially those that have lost their lives. Sadly, political groups will try and hijack this day and push a narrative. And we're seeing, of course, the dilution of the importance of this day from everyone from the federal government all the way down. But us here, Australians, New Zealanders, and those around the world, we need to keep and make sure that this is remembered correctly, seen to correctly, and we have a beer for the boys that didn't make it home. Now, I should say, I'm not sure if I will be making a video tomorrow or not. But legends, we do have a fair bit to speak about today. So we're going to look at some new footage that's come out, announcement of a whole new group which could wreak havoc in the north of Ukraine. We're going to look at some strikes against fuel depots and against air defense systems, new air defense systems coming into Ukraine and into Russia. And we'll look at the US aid. We know it's waiting to come in. Of course, we need to look at conscription and what has been said about this. But we need to start off and have a look at the maps, because my friend in Ukraine, who needs to remain anonymous, although after the war, it'll be really interesting for these guys who feed me stuff to come out and speak about exactly what they can, at least after this. But as basically said, us bloggers, the news, officials are really playing down the significance of some of these recent Russian advances, especially around the Avdiivka front, and has broken this down for me. So what we're going to do, because people like this, we're going to look at the maps straight off the bat in the start of the video. So of course, here is Ukraine, the capital of Kyiv. The red areas occupied since 2022, and the purple, oh my God, since 2014. I think I'm getting a bit sick, and that is the worst feeling in the world. But where we need to come down into is this is Bakhmut and this is Avdiivka. Now, you will see there's some blue on this map. We haven't seen blue on this map for a while. That indicates new territory taken within 2 weeks by Ukraine. But here we have Avdiivka, and we've seen this Russian advance here near Ochetene. So we've come out and we have seen this advancement of up to like 10 kilometers in 10 days out. And what we do see today, if we turn this on, is on this map, more confirmed advances. So Ochetene here, a lot of now the town of further westerly push to the south of here, out from Badachi Semenivka. What is very important here is this is the first confirmation on this map, not by NOAA reports or Syriac, but on this map of a westerly cross across the Derna into these row of houses, town in here, but as well that first line of defense, as well as a further northeasterly push out of Novokonove here as well. So there has been a lot of advancement shown on this map. What we spoke about yesterday, and what of a lot of Ukrainian bloggers were speaking about, was the opportunity given here was, let's step back to then yesterday, was that how thin this is here, that Ukraine will come in and will cut this off. Now, we spoke about yesterday, you and I said, if Russia wants to maintain this, they need to fatten this out and make it more secure. What has then actually been done today? But let's have a look at some of the information that then I was sent over that is relevant to these areas. Now, I have a few screenshots of maps purely so it'll make it a little bit easier for myself. But let's come down into here, and we're talking about these two roads. So a gentleman says to me that this is the same area. The road short cut across the tracks from the south, though. So through here across, then this is the train track running through here. The road that runs south of the tracks will take you west of the town, kind of a vital point, very vital. So this road that runs then west of the town to get back onto this main road that's running through here. And of course, this one as well. Now, both of which have now become under Russian control. So we see the 19th, this is the road, this is here, and the movement now to get out from these areas has gone. Now, let's have a look, if I can click on this correctly, at further of what he says, lining up with some maps as well. So I'm just going to bring up this map here. Now, this is just a zoom out of where we are. So this is Ochetene down here, of what we're looking at today on the MOD map. And I've drawn in a few things that are relevant. Let's make this a little bit bigger if I can. The whole road to Keramik from Minograd is top quality paving. You can drive 120 kilometers all the way on that, or you could. Russia is going to want that road intact as possible. Ukraine knows this. Cutting off Keramik really sucks because the turnoff on the highway up to Konstantinivka was dodgy even a year ago. So, a lot of information. Where are we talking about? Of course, this is the area we were just talking, Ochetene. This is Keramik, and this is Novokonovi. Now, this is today's map. See that this road from Keramik has just been cut by this Russian advancement here. Of course, then, between these two is also cut. It was speaking about Keramik, then all the way back down through to then Minorad here, then this road. That this is a good quality road. But this, where I've got the circle, is dodgy even a year ago. The top of that main highway is basically at the crest of a hill. There is no really good way out of Keramik now. Likewise, Semenivka and Badachi will get choked off sooner than later. So this is the road up to Konstantinivka. We see Konstantinivka, this road here, and this one that he's saying the Russians want to keep intact, but now there's no good way out because of where this intersection is, that it is, as he said, dodgy even a year ago. So these advancements are very important in this area for strategic, tactical, smaller movements on the ground than maybe overall that we are then seeing just from our limited assessment for the limited amount of knowledge and what we have, not being on the ground. Likewise before with Semenivka, a lot of difficult ground to cover to Minograd. So this open terrain all the way out through here. But all lands are over Minograd now. They know it will be a very tough slog west. All lands, Russian reconnaissance drones also can use laser-guided stuff as well. Sad, really. The aid bill passing in October would have prevented this. And that's not being too personal. That's objective reasoning on our resources. Yeah, keep doing what you're doing. The everything is fine approach is no longer serving us. And that is the change in approach that we have seen. So talking about down in here from Semenivka, Berdachi, and of course with this road being cut out all the way through then to Minograd. So let's talk about this, and I'll just go back onto this map and show you what I'm talking about. So here we have Minograd, Pokrovsk, Ochetene, Berdachi, Semenivka. That because of this advancement down here, this road, they used to be able to come up through here, get across somewhere, either this track or in the west here, and then this really well-paved road, all well-paved road all the way through to Minograd here. Now that has been cut off on those crossings there, and that it is collapsing on this front here, that now isn't an option. Now, furthermore, down in here, I am told that there is a bridge down in Karlivka. This is Karlivka down here, making any movement from here more and more difficult as well. So these roads are very critical, especially if now you're reliant solely on this for movement out of other areas. So I really, really thank that gentleman for sending me this across. But let's actually have a look at the movements between yesterday and today. So this is what we have seen, and this is significant because we know the importance of this area. Now, this is actually further exacerbated. This is another Ukrainian map, one I don't typically use, but this is a NAFO Ukrainian map showing significantly worse than this map shows. Maybe not down to the south, but it shows that all of Ochetene has come under then Russian control. Again, that is a Ukrainian map that I am looking at, shared by NAFO account. So we've seen that, and then we have this then from Syriac, which I believe the Syriac shows more in line with this map, almost exactly with this map. Situation north and west of Avdiivka, Russian army continue advancing Ochetene and controls 40% of the locality. Due to the loss of the high ground, Ukrainian army retreated from the positions in the southern outskirts, including the village of this, which is about to fall under Russian control. Moreover, Russian forces are about to take Semenivka as troops reach the last trench system and houses of the locality. So this movement here, this is shown by this movement from Badachi to Semenivka on then Suryak and the MOD map and the movement out in this area. And I'd say that this has now come under Russian control, judging off what we can look at the maps. But we can't downplay this movement here from Keramik, that now the way out of Keramik has been greatly reduced by what it used to be out through here. Now it's on this apparently dodgy intersection here. We know this is very close. You're talking, if there's a Russian line somewhere here, 700 meters. So it is that front line has really changed very quickly. Now let's go then have a look at Bakhmut. Now, this is the first blue on this map we've seen in a long time. Remember, green is Ukrainian advancement over 2 weeks old. Blue is under 2 weeks. And we then see, we have 2 map updates on the 24th, but then we see this movement just to the south of Ivanovsky. Now, this is then backed up by the Suryak map in the exact same location. Ukrainian army recaptured a series of positions between Ivanovsky and Klishkivka, so have made back some important ground down in here. Now, there's no other movements seen on this map here, I don't believe. I actually haven't looked in Robotny. No, we haven't. But let's talk then about this. We have 2 other Ukrainian maps showing similar. So here we have the Noel reports map showing that Russia has taken over a trench system just out in this direction. Here we know that there is a lot of argument about, is Russia present at all in Robotny or not? It depends on who you listen to and what maps you take in. But we can see that there was some advancement here. So yes, it's showing slightly different. It was actually showing very similar area if we take into account of this road. But what is different is Suryak is saying, well, all of this is closed up and it was advancement to the east, where this is showing it must have been advancement from the north. So what we know is this area has definitely come under control, just this block, but we don't know where the ground sits to the left and right, or bloody east and west of that. Zap front, during the last 8 days, Russian army made minimal advances southeast of Robotny. Situation in this front remains generally static. We're not seeing any major shifts and changes there. Now, one thing I want to talk about, so we did see, I've shown you up in here that how quickly that came from break-in through taken, as well as if we come down here into Novomylivka, that how quickly it went from the break-in and then through to then the occupation of this area. MOD update has sort of talked about this. On the 22nd of April, the Russian Ministry of Defense claimed their forces had taken control over Novomylivka. The town is situated south of Mariinka and northeast of Uladar. Donetsk, Novomylivka has limited military strategic significance, but lies on roads to further settlements that straddle both sides of the Serky Yali River in the southern Donetsk. I'd say that it has everywhere has military significance, especially for the movement further into these areas down here. That's limited open ground. Anyway, Russian forces reportedly entered the town on the 9th of Feb 24 and reached the middle by the 24th of March. The 79th Separate Air Assault Brigade reportedly stated this acquired a force of 30,000 Russians and 300 pieces of equipment that were lost over 6 months. From entering to clearing the town, a total distance of 5 kilometres, took the Russian forces 73 days. That was the benefit of additional operational reserves. This demonstrates the slow but incremental advancements Russian forces are making. On this axis, Russian forces will likely seek to advance towards Konstantinivka, 2 kilometres west of Novomylivka. Further advances north of Ugledar could eventually allow Ugledar's defences to be bypassed. These defences have caused extremely high casualties for Russian ground forces. We know on this axis here has been incredibly difficult for Russia to have any break-in, but what we have spoken about is Konstantinivka, and this road that runs down here, the cut off of this can bypass that, and we could see a collapse in this front line area too. But what I want to get at is the break-in takes so long, but then the occupation is significantly shorter. We've seen the same down here, and the same in Avdiivka, and the same in Ochetane as well. Well, currently we're seeing that happening. So that is, I guess, the mappings for the day. Now I need to talk about conscription, as I'm in always 2 minds about conscription, but what we do know is This, for me, is actually Ukraine's biggest issue. I actually think this is a bigger issue than the military aid being hung up, because this can't be solved by funding alone, nor can it be solved by a third party. So US funding will then Germany and France step up massively, or other countries. No one else can solve this except for a deployment of Western troops. It's just not going to happen, I believe, at this point. But this has to be fixed, and I don't see how this can be fixed, at least short term. So, of course, this is exacerbated by a limited aid shortage. Of course, then has, not a good situation on the front lines, and we see ground getting lost. So then there's a morale issue, and people have a more grim outlook on the war. And then you start this slippery slope, exacerbating the problems worse and worse and worse, because the worse it's looking on the front, the less money's going in. Well, then the less people are going to volunteer and sign up. And people have said all of those who were going to volunteer have volunteered. Now you're relying on conscripts. Now, of course, there's new mobilization laws. From the start of the war, 18-year-olds to 60-year-olds couldn't leave. So then we're having now not only people who are 60 now that they can leave, but we're having people that were 15, late 15-year-olds, now 16, who now have to come back, have to potentially sign up. So we're getting both ends of that. You're getting people who are very young at the beginning, and 18 is very young, but coming in too. Of course, incredibly unpopular in Ukraine with the new mobilization laws. There's no law for demobilization yet. So when you actually come off, the people are saying you're either going to be 200 or 300, so killed or wounded, to ever be demobilized. And there's no rotation of troops off the front. Now, what that shows how critical this manpower shortage is. Anyway, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Dmytro Kuleba, has released this, and I think this is poorly worded. And from the comments I'm seeing about these criticisms, I think other people share my same idea. But protecting the rights and interests of Ukrainian citizens abroad has always been and remains a priority for the MFA. At the same time, under the circumstances of Russia's full-scale aggression, the main priority is to protect our homeland from destruction. How it looks now. A man of conscription age went abroad, showed his state that he does not care about its survival, and then comes and wants to receive services from this state. It does not work this way. Our country is at war. Now, what this is about is it has been announced that Ukrainian men abroad will have limited consular assistance. So you lose your passport, you go to a Ukrainian embassy. Well, you can do that, but you've got to go back into Kiev. Now, once you're back in Kiev, well, then they can arrest you, throw in the front line. However that goes, you're back there. You're going to have to pay to get back out again. The minister announced on Tuesday the temporary suspension from April 23rd of this year, accepting new applications for consular services. Now, services are more than that. Temporary restrictions do not affect the provision of consular assistance in emergency situations for Ukrainian citizens abroad. But what this is trying to do is targeting men to get them back into then conscripted. Besides, the obligation to update one's documents with the conscription centres existed even before the new law on mobilisation was passed. If anyone believes that while someone is fighting far away at the front line, risking his or her life for the state, someone else is staying abroad but receiving services from the state, then this is not how it works. That it's the unfairness between people on the front and people, hanging out in Europe drinking beers, some of which are children of those making decisions also for the state. But staying abroad does not relieve a citizen of his or her duties to the homeland. That is why yesterday I ordered measures to restore fair attitudes towards men of conscription age in Ukraine and abroad. This will be fair. Soon, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will provide further clarifications on the procedure for obtaining consular services within the legal framework for men of conscription age in foreign diplomatic missions as we approach the entry into force of law and amendments on certain legislative acts of Ukraine on certain issues of military service mobilization and military registration, as well as after it comes into force. So again, people are up in arms about this, that I see people going, well, then can I then release my citizenship, and what laws are in place to protect? We know that countries in Europe, they can't forcibly send Ukrainian men back, although there is calls for this. And a lot of the calls for this is not coming from guys that could be conscripted. A lot of this is coming from guys who have no chance of being conscripted. They've just got NAFO in their name or a flag, who could volunteer and go. Like, all these people are jumping up and like, this is what we need everyone at the front. The majority of the people I see doing this, you could go and fight. And people saying, and I've got a slight medical issue, blah, blah, blah. You're like, there's dudes who are on the front line bloody who are missing a leg or missing 2 legs, who are still doing work, so yeah, we know there's been a change in the medical exemptions as well. Anyway, people saying anyone who abandoned their country during time of total war is probably not much help at the front. We've spoken about this when Australia in World War I talked about conscription. Even people in the front said, well, I don't want to fight with them because if they're not volunteer, they don't want to be here. What use are they going to be? And people have pointed at that, as well as other people are pointing at the Constitution, the Ukrainian Constitution under Article 24, that citizens have equal constitutional rights and freedoms are equal before the law. There should be no privileges or restrictions based on race, color of skin, political, religious, or other beliefs, sex, ethnicity, and social origin, property status, place of residence, linguistic, or other characteristics. But we do know that people who are more wealthy can get out, and we do know that this only applies to men. So people are pointing at this as, could potentially be unconstitutional as well. But I think this conscription, it shows a larger problem, and I don't know how Ukraine plug this hole and how they fix this, especially as we're seeing that the front line is deteriorating. That funding will come in. We'll see how that goes. But I just don't know how you plug those holes. So let's have a look at a couple of things. So one of the big ones, I probably should have put this early in the group, is a lot of Russian pages are sharing that the group North, or North Group, however you want to say it, has been actively getting promoted. Now, what this, of course, will be is up in the Kharkiv and Sumy direction. So Kharkiv, Sumy, and a potential threat of cross here. Now, we know that there is a real threat of this. Otherwise, Ukraine wouldn't be spending their limited resources already building up massive defensive works through here. But what we have spoken about is, could this be limited because Ukraine's going to have to draw troops away from here to have more success down in the east? Now, there's been a teaser trailer release. How weird, how wild is it that we got a trailer for then Ukraine's counteroffensive, and then we're getting a trailer for North Group, or Group North as well. So the Z, of course, up to an N, and we get this trailer. It'll be on the Telegram if you'd like to then watch it. But that could be a real problem for just the geography of the land, having to move soldiers because Ukraine is such a large country. Now, we do have some footage as well. We have the satellite imagery here of the Komuna submarine, this well over 110-year-old sub that doesn't show any substantial sub-rescue ship here. It doesn't show any substantial damage in these photographs here, and there's been no confirmation of damage by Ukraine since. So this is all that we've got at the moment to go off. It doesn't show anything substantial in those videos. Now, we have more footage as well of a KH-59 missile striking. I'm glad they put the bloody what's this thing called, watermark, right over everything. But this is in the Kharkiv direction, that TV tower, communications tower that was struck. See the precise hit here. Am I playing this out? Intro is longer than I thought. There you go. Precise hit on that. And you can see, of course, because this is a aerial, it carry on through. But then, of course, that was then taken down by a KH-59. Very precise strike on that. It's got a very limited area to hit. Yeah, tower's big when you're next to it, but you're firing from a long way away. You're very, very precise. Russian drones and potentially missiles as well have struck a fuel depot in Dnipro. There are casualty lists coming out as well, so we'll talk about that tomorrow, but we see a massive fire here. That there is also footage of some of these drones being intercepted successfully too as well. This has been going around celebrated, and this is said to be a Russian S-400 air defense system. Of course, we know one of these got taken out. We can confirm it got taken out down in Crimea. Now, this one is interesting, and we need to be fair where fair is given. And we need to treat everything the same, regardless of what it is. That, to my eye and a lot of other people's, this potentially could be a decoy. That there doesn't show any secondaries going off from these hits on the system, and many people are pointing that this is decoys. And these are, and both people who are agreeing with this are on both sides of this. So, interesting footage. Let me know what you think, but I believe that it potentially a decoy. They're speaking of air defense. Shoigu has come out with this. This year, Troops received the first samples of the next generation S-500 air defense missile system in 2 modifications: long-range air defense missile systems and anti-missile defense complexes. The S-400 and S-300 version 4 air defense system missile systems, the Book 3 Tor M2U missile systems, and next-generation radar stations. So there'll be a lot more effort put into air defense systems and that next gen coming onto the battlefield. Now, we don't know how this will perform, but we do know that this air defense is coming in, as the F-16s will be coming in the next couple of weeks into Ukraine. Well, we're hearing midsummer, so it's got to be within the next 6 to 8, 9 weeks. Now, let's speak about US aid. We know that aid is coming in at some point and maybe coming in a lot sooner. Now, we know there's a few more sign-offy things to go through, but realistically, that will go through. While American officials, this is from CNN, will not say so openly, a US source familiar with the provision of military aid to Ukraine said much of it is already pre-positioned in storage facilities in Germany and Poland, which will cut down the time to go in. So some of this has been positioned apparently in Poland and Germany. Then, so if this got signed off, that it would come through much, much faster, and people saying it'll be under a week to get to the front line. Now, will we see effect of this straight off the bat? I don't know, but it will be interesting to see what comes in exactly and what effect that has on the front lines as well. So Biden administration preparing the new aid package to be around $1 billion. Now, in briefings with Congress in recent weeks, administration officials have indicated that the US will likely send Ukraine long-range ATACMS. Of course, this goes in line with the HIMARS system, and this will potentially increase the range. So the ones at the moment about 100 miles, where there is another variant up to 190 miles, about 300 kilometers. So, of course, increasing the range and hitting deeper into occupied territory. Of course, this still can't be used to strike in any areas within Russia. Now, what people are pointing at is these will then be able to strike at full length, so it will be in the air a long time, what does increase its vulnerability for air defense. The longer something in the air, it's more obvious, but could potentially strike the Kerch Strait Bridge. We've spoken in length about the importance and significance of this bridge, not only PR, but also strategic as well, which we think the strategic element of this is actually been decreasing with the new train line that's gone through, as well as Ukrainian intelligence is telling us that because of strikes here, Russia doesn't move military equipment along this anymore. But legends, that is all that I have for you guys today. Look after yourselves. I'll likely see you tomorrow, but get yourself to a dawn service. Have a moment of silence and remember those that gave us everything that we have. Thank you. Bye-bye.